Evening. Welcome to week two of terrorism and political violence. Welcome back to the class, and week two will cover national terrorism, international terrorism, anti-colonial movements, and historical perspectives. Just to cover a little bit of last week. First, the exam. I know there's been numerous problems with the exam. I will try to fix that this week. I know there's been problems with people not enough time, people getting timed out, different sections just getting all messed up. When I logged into it, there was different submission times for different people that got really out of whack. I don't know if that's a technical issue or a problem with the exam, but I'm going to try and fix it for next week, even if that involves doing away with the exams altogether. For this week, if you can, and if your exam got messed up, if you can just copy and paste into a Word document and send it to me. Even if you take longer than the exam allotted time, that will work for now. Please go ahead and do that. I'll try and get that straightened out this week. If there's a problem, please shoot me a note. And then to wrap up this last week, the discussion section, I think we got a lot of responses on the what is terrorism, what is not, which is good. I like that. I like the controversy. I like the back and forth. One thing I ask is that keep your responses short, and you don't just regurgitate the Hoffman or whatever text we're reading. I want your opinion, your analysis, your thoughts, and your back and forth with the rest of the class. And I think that would make for a more fruitful discussion. And I think, last week, what is terrorism really had struck a nerve with some people, which again is good. And the thing you should take away from it is that, people view what terrorism is quite differently. It is a cliche to say one man's freedom fighter is another one's terrorist, but, people see these things in different manners. When you saw the movie One Day in September, when the bodies of the people that were involved in that, when they returned back to Libya, they were given heroes' welcome. They were certainly not considered terrorists in the Middle East, and other people don't consider them terrorists as well. Whether you agree on that or not is set aside. Different people will disagree on that. With that being said, I'm under the clear thought that you should have a definition of terrorism. It's something that the international community can coalesce around. It's even something that our own agencies can coalesce around. I think it's important to get that right for legal perspectives, for legal reasons, for law enforcement reasons, for diplomatic reasons, and we still haven't gotten it right. So it's important that we still keep thinking through those issues. And even now, there's issues of what is terrorism, what group is terrorist, what group is not. If you're on cable TV, if you watch cable TV and you see commercials for the Mujadan al-Khaliq, which is MEK. There's a lot of people that think that should be taken off the terrorist list. And that's MEK is an Iranian dissident group that's been involved in terrorist activities against the regime in Iran. People have come out and said it should not be a terrorist organization. And there's reasons it should be a terrorist organization, but again, that debate's still out there. A couple of years ago, several of you, if you are in D.C., you might remember this. There was hearings against homegrown extremism, and the head of those hearings was Peter King, congressman from Long Island, and people asked, well, you're against these quote-unquote terrorists that are operating from the homeland, but he himself had professed support for IRA, Irish Republican Army operatives that were hiding in the United States away from the British. And it's kind of, people noted that was ironic, and then the question would come up, well, why do you think they're not terrorists, but you think the homegrown Islamic radicals are terrorists? So, again, no one seems to have a quite answer for this. Politics always enters into this, so it's still important that we kind of think through, what is terrorism, what is not. And in your papers, when you talk about the group that you're coming up with, go ahead and ask, or try and answer the question. This group should be a terrorist organization because blah, 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 blah. Okay? So that wraps up last week. Just coming into this week, we're going to talk a lot about history, The Hoffman is, again, a great read. The Rapport, The Four Waves of Terrorism, that covers a pretty good history. That kind of brings everything into a nice, neat little package. But kind of take away from the Hoffman does a great job of this, and the Rapport does a good job of it, is two groups that to highlight are the FLN in Algeria and the Irgun in Israel. And the reason why you want to I highlight them, and I think they're interesting case studies, is because they show that terrorism works. That when done right, deliberately targeting civilians can bring attention to your cause. It can influence people and eventually achieve your political objectives. Whoever tells you that terrorism doesn't work does not know what they're talking about, because in these two cases it does. And what these people, the FLN and the Irgun, their leadership understood was how to use the media, how to use television, which was just coming of age, how to use television to their advantage. And they were excellent. I would say they were even better PR, public relations people, than they were terrorists. In fact, especially in the FLN case, they were actually very poor insurgents, the Algerians. They actually lost on the battlefield, but they won in the PR war, and that's why they achieved their objectives. And then you actually probably saw it in the movie One Day in September last week. The Black Hand, the Palestinians, they might have killed people, they might have committed atrocities, but they won the PR war. They brought attention to their cause, and it worked for them. It worked for them. That's why we talk about the Palestinians to this day, because again they had terrorism brought attention to their plight. Whether it's right or wrong is a different story, but that's essentially what did happen. So yeah, we'll talk about history, and then the movie, the documentary Road to 9/11. You should all have it. This covers the history of what is going on in the Middle East up to 9/11. It's a little old, but it's accurate. It's a little bit, I would think, politically slated, but the question to ask is, yes, this is why 9/11 occurred, but the bigger question to ask is, why up to 9/11 was there so much anti-American animosity? And part of it is because of the history of colonialism that's brought about. Part of it is because of the failed governments in Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Syria. And some of it has to do with American policies, which is the question brought up in this week's discussion. One thing it doesn't count, because the movie the movie really ended on 9/11. The documentary focused on 9/11. There's been a lot of changes in the 10 years since then. Saudi Arabia, there's been reforms. Obviously, there was an Arab Spring, so there's democracy in the Middle East that didn't occur beforehand. So just keep that in mind. And then again, to start off the controversy, or to end off this discussion, start off the controversy is, what role did American policy have in causing 9/11? That's one of your discussion questions. I'll put that on the discussion board, and I want to kind of get that going. I don't necessarily believe that American policy had a predominant role in causing the events of 9/11. I don't believe in the blowback theories that are kind of floated out there, but that is still an interesting case study. What did American policy in the Middle East, how did that result in 9/11? Would there have been different dynamics occurring? So I'm just going to wrap up this YouTube lecture. If there's any other questions or issues with the test, please email me, and have a good week.